Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. We are very happy to have yet another Facebook live session with the scholars of South Ilahi. For today, we are going to continue on the Knowing the Path to Allah by Shaykh Ibn Arabi Al-Saih Al-Tijani, taught by Imam Talut Dawood. Imam Talut Dawood will expound on the etiquettes of companionship and brotherhood required of the disciples, as well as the loyalty and perfect chivalry needed for one to be an exemplary disciple. Imam Talut Dawood is a student of knowledge from the United States who has studied Arabic and the religion for over 10 years. He specializes in Arabic translation and Hanafi fiqh. He currently resides in Mexico, where he has taught and served as Imam for the last 6 years. And finally, he is a murid and authorized muqaddam of Shaykh Muhammad Al-Mahisise. Inshallah, without further ado, I'd like to invite Imam Talut Dawood to begin his dars. Bismillah, tafadhal Imam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا من فضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير وربنا آتنا من لدنك رحمة وهيئ لنا من أمرنا رشدا أهمة الشيخ احفظنا بنظرة تعطينا بالظهر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Okay, we are going to continue, inshallah, from the fourth topic regarding the etiquettes of companionship from Bughiyatul Mustafid of Sidi Al-Arabi ibn Saih. And so we left off last week where there was an implication that one adopts so we have in the hadith, we have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that said, that a man is upon the religion of his friend. And here we had an indication that, of how that occurs, and that is by the fact that you take on the attributes of the people that you spend time with, of the people that you keep close to you. And so we're going to actually see some of this today, inshallah. And then we're going to look at some of the etiquettes that people of the path have when they want to take someone on as a companion. Bismillah. So Arabi ibn Saih says, after he says that the one who associates with a leper is a leper, he says, and some have mentioned that there's cross-pollination in meeting one's brethren. And there is no doubt that people's inner realities cross-pollinate through meeting. In fact, simply looking at the people of piety affects piety. Indeed, in most cases, looking at anyone causes one to adopt the conduct of the one at whom he is looking. Just as looking at a happy person causes happiness, and at a sad person causes sadness. Stray camels become tamed by associating with tamed camels. Water and air become polluted through proximity to decaying corpses, and crops are separated from neighboring roots and stems due to prevent their being spoiled through proximity. Thus, if proximity has an effect on animals, plants, substances, water, and air, then its effect on the noble souls of human beings is even greater. So we're going to look at what he's saying here, inshallah, quickly. So what he's saying is that, when you spend time with people, then you influence each other. And the one that influences more depends on his spiritual state. And so, but even though that's the case, even though the one who influences more is the one who has a stronger spiritual state, and that means that's either negative or positive. I'm not saying spiritual state and as in closest to Allah. I'm saying that his spirituality, whether negative or positive, is stronger, or a stronger influence than the others. So that person will influence the other person more. But even though that's the case, there is some influence that is interchanged. So people, that have their spirituality is a bit weaker, do influence the other, as they are influenced. And so, and he says, simply looking at the people of piety affects piety. And so this is one of the things that one of the secrets in istihdar al-qudwa. Istihdar al-qudwa is a principle in tasawwuf, and it's a very strong principle in the Tijani tariqah, and that is that when you're doing your dhikr, then you picture yourself before the qudwa. You're the person who you are making your example in the path. Why? Because bringing his image to the forefront, in front of you, helps you to obtain some of his characteristics. And that's why you have times, or you have people who go to sheikhs and they only exchange a few words, and they benefit greatly. And that person may even have the Fath al-Akbar, the great illumination, where he enters into the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly, just after a few words, because he met the sheikh and he was benefited by looking at him as well. And so this is something that we have to keep in mind, especially in our day and time when everything is visual. So there are many people. I'm not one of the people that is going to tell you that looking at TV, looking at these shows and stuff like that is haram. In fact, I look at some things. However, you have to be very careful with your intake, because what you're looking at has an effect on you. And I know it's very taboo to speak about, because people don't want their entertainment to be interrupted by someone telling them, well, maybe this isn't the best thing to look at. If your goal is not Allah, then have at it. But if your goal is Allah, then maybe this isn't the right thing to be looking at. So we have to be careful what we about our intake, especially what we look at and what we hear. These things affect us. They go directly to the soul, and the nafs, the soul, it's like a recorder, and so many times, when a desire comes to us and we know that it's haram, then it will start to replay things that it remembers, to try and convince the heart to go with it. And so this makes what we look at and what we take in very important and very dangerous. And so just looking at the people of piety affects piety, and we can go and say that the opposite is true, that looking at the people of waywardness causes waywardness. And so and then he goes on to give examples of how people they do all of these things to keep to protect their animals, their livestock. They do all of these things to protect their crops. They do all these things to protect the water and air, because they know that whatever is beside it will have an effect on it. But when it comes to our souls, we're in a state of denial. And that's this is this is evident in some of the ways that we try to justify, company that we keep or things that or habits that we have. It doesn't affect me my iman. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. I can hang out with people, you know people who don't, who their goal is not Allah, and that doesn't affect my spiritual path. Yes, it does. I can hang out with, people, or be close with, people who have absolutely no belief whatsoever and still be a believer in God. No, you really can't. You have to, at some point, you have to take a stand and draw a line for protecting your iman, and draw a line for protecting your spirituality. At some point, there's no getting around that. And so this is what he's explaining here, is that, if proximity to what is corrupt has an effect on all of these different things, then its effect on, the human being is even greater. And so we have to be careful about who we keep, contact, who we keep close relationships with. And then he goes on, and among the benefits of companionship are that some companions help others in this world to bear the afflictions and depressive states that befall them, that some will cause others to receive in the barzakh, in the ismith, in the interworld, excellent glad tidings, increased nobility, benefit, and blessings, that some of them will take the other by the hand on the day of judgment, and that some will intercede for others so that they obtain forgiveness in high stations in the abode of satisfaction. So these are some of the benefits of companionship. It has been mentioned in Awarif and Ma'arif that it will be said to one of two people who are brothers in Allah, exalted is He, enter paradise. But he will ask about his brother. If he is at a lower rank than him, he will not enter paradise until his brother is raised to his rank. So it will be said to him, he didn't used to perform the same acts as you. The person will respond, I was acting on my behalf, and on his behalf. And this reminds me of something that Shaykh Mahi Sisi, said. He said to different murids, he said that he never asks anything of Allah except that he asks Allah to give it to all of his murids also. And so this is one of the things that's being described here, that these are people who, because of their rank with Allah, Allah allows them to raise other people to their ranks. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of them, or of the people who are raised by them. Ameen. Thus his brother will be given all that he had been given, and he will be raised to his degree. This is just some of what indicates the majestic value of accompanying the elect, and the sublime status of taking the righteous as brothers, by way of brief summary. But this is sufficient for the one who seeks to be reminded and shown the way. Because of the high degree and noble status that we have established for it, it has been singled out for some immense emphasized rights and encircled by beautiful etiquette and praiseworthy conduct. Among these special etiquettes is that when one wishes to enter brotherhood and companionship, he should submit himself and his companion to Allah, exalted is He, through diligent supplication, prayer, and humble entreaty. That is because he opens for himself through companionship either one of the doors of paradise or one of the doors of the fire. If through their companionship they are granted an opening to good, and they perpetuate upon that until they both pass away, he will have opened for himself through that companionship one of the doors of paradise. Our Lord, blessed and exalted is He, has said, Some friends will be enemies to another. Some friends will be enemies one to another on that day, except the God-fearing. If there arises from their companionship some evil that cuts them both off from Allah, exalted is He, and we seek refuge from that from Allah, He will have opened Himself up through His companionship to one of the doors of the fire. And Allah, exalted as He, has said, on that day the wrongdoer will bite his hands. Even if this verse was revealed for a special reason and a well-known story in it, Allah, exalted as He, is warning His servants to beware of those whose companionship will cut them off from Allah, exalted as He. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, is a person corrupted except by other people? So corruption occurs through companionship just as rectification occurs. And if companionship is the way that it occurs, how can he not beware at the onset? Its affair requires frequent flight to Allah, exalted as He, sincere neediness, requesting blessing in it, and preceding it with prayer for the prayer for seeking guidance, Salatul Istikhara. See Awadif al-Ma'arif for more information. And so, the City Al-Arabi bin Saih is just, explaining that, this companionship and Allah, it has special rights and special benefits. And so before one enters into companionship, he should make istikhara. The only exception to this is when, your Shaykh recommends you to keep the companionship of someone. Because if that's the case, then that that is beneficial for you. But other than that, if one, intends to keep someone as his brother in Allah, then he will need to make istikhara and need to seek Allah's guidance and seek Allah in it, because it is one of the ways that he will either enter the paradise or the fire. And so Sidi Al-Arabi bin Saih, he continues, I say that I have not seen or heard of anyone who upholds this etiquette, nor anyone who emphasizes it more than those companions of our master, may Allah be pleased with him, meaning the companions of Shaykh Al-Tijani radiallahu anhu, those who accompanied him during his lifetime and obtained the permission to transmit the litany. Indeed, if someone came to them intending to enter into the companionship and brotherhood of the path, they would make known to them the excessive emphasis on its affair. And, this is something that, this is something that even, even after they have passed away, some of the muqaddams, they keep this. I was I was asked, I was told by someone who had a dream. They were thinking about taking, Tijani Tariqa, and they had a dream and they saw Shaykh Mahi's father, Sayyid Ali Sisi. And he told them that he had intended to enter, he told him, Sayyid Ali Sisi had had offered him, in marriage a lady, and he told him, but she has some special concerns before you can marry her. And so I told the brother that it means that it's an invitation to enter the Tijani path, but also a warning that it has special emphasized conditions that cannot be taken away. And so this is just Sayyid Ali Sisi radiallahu anhu. He, even after he passed away, this was his way. And so this is how Sayyid Ali Sisi, mashallah, even embodied this principle, that we're reading here in the book. And so this is something that we, we want to see and we want to know, because these principles are in the books, but you have to follow someone who embodies these principles in order for you to benefit from the path. And so, you want to look, at these things, understand their meaning, and find the people who adhere to this in your time. And they still exist, alhamdulillah. And they would make great effort in supplicating for him and for themselves that they should be firm in that affair, all while connecting the affair between them to the spiritual concentration of the Shaykh, may Allah be pleased with him, demonstrating that their hand was that of a representative and that they have no superiority to the one to whom they were transmitting the litany, and that they had no objective in their dealing with them in the way of offering advice and complete guidance except the grace of Allah, exalted is He, that they hoped for through their apparent preaching. And so this is alhamdulillah, this is part of the great etiquette that they received from their master, our Shaykh Al-Tijani radiallahu anhu. And he continues, and I have seen that some of them will not transmit the litany to anyone until they have made the prophetic prayer for guidance, istikhara, and sincerely turned towards Allah, exalted is He, as perfectly as possible. Among them was also one who would add to the prayer for guidance what was easy for him to recite of Salat al-Fatihi, donating the reward to the Shaykh, may Allah be pleased with him. Then he would seek his permission to transmit his litany to that person who sought it from him. He would do this either with his heart alone or with his heart and his tongue by saying, this person sought from me that I should transmit to him the litany, and I am transmitting the litany to him by your permission and by the blessing of your spiritual concentration. The author of the poem Munyat al-Murid, the Munyat al-Murid is the subject of this book. Once we get to the explanation, this is the text that Sidi Al-Arabi ibn Saih will be explaining. And so the author of that poem, may Allah sanctify his spirit, informed me that when he made the firm intention to enter this noble path, he and a companion went to the great erudite scholar and famous blessed Muqaddam Abu Abdullah Sidi Muhammad, who is called Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Alawi. And, alhamdulillah, Shaykh Ibrahim Niyas, radiallahu anhu, he is connected to this blessed Muqaddam. He is also called the Vice Regent Al-Khalifa due to his succeeding the majestic Shaykh Sidi Muhammad al-Hafiz al-Alawi in the affairs of transmitting litanies, guiding, and directing. He was one of the shuyukh of Tarabiyah in this path. When they sought from him, may Allah be pleased with him, that he should transmit to them the litany, he was covered in concern for the importance of that. He didn't settle down until he took them both to the grave of Sidi Muhammad al-Hafiz, may Allah be pleased with him, which was some distance from his home. When he had completed the necessary greeting and visitation, he ordered them both to draw near to the blessed grave. Then he addressed him and them together, saying in a voice that displayed humility, brokenness, incapacity, and neediness, these are Fulan ibn Fulan and Fulan ibn Fulan. They both have sought from me that I should transmit to them the litany of our patron Shaykh, may Allah be pleased with him. And I hereby transmit it to them through your permission and the permission of the Shaykh, may Allah be pleased with him. Then he transmitted it to them and made plentiful supplication for them in that blessed place. And so, there's just so much etiquette, so much adab that is embodied in this paragraph. But it shows the concern that they had for this Muhammadan path, and had the concern they had for taking people on as companions. And it also shows that they entered into these, even though these people are people of Tarabiya. So Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Alawi was one of the muqaddams that had special permission in Tarabiya. And even though that was the case, when the person entered the path, he entered the path and he accepted him into the path as his brother. And so he even though he was giving benefit, in reality, his he was also looking to benefit from such a relationship. And so there's a lot of etiquette here that go beyond what Sidi Arabi bin Saih is actually trying to convey. So regarding, their entering into companionship, then this displays that they always, they would make, ardent supplication. They would make much supplication on their own behalf, on behalf of the person trying to enter the path, and also on behalf of Sidna Shaykh and the people in the silsila. And then they would do istikhara, and so they would take this taking someone on as a companion very seriously, and they would not take it lightly. And so that's what he's trying to convey here. Uh, so and so he continues. This occurred another time to the author, may Allah have mercy on him, when he was in Fez. One of the famous companions of our master, may Allah be pleased with him, transmitted the litany to him next to his illuminated grave, may Allah be pleased with him, next to the Sheikh's grave, in a similar manner to what we have just described. That was from Allah's care for him, and the effects of this have manifested upon him such that his affair became great, and he emerged in the realm of realization and reached a degree of perfection and sincerity and affirmation. In addition, I have seen that one of them, when he wished to transmit the litany to anyone, he would order him to attend the wazifa at the appointed time with all of the fuqara, all the people of the Tijani path in the Zawiyah. Then, after the wazifa had finished, the effect of presence appeared on his face, such that one knew that he was seeking permission for that from the noble presence. Then, after he finished reciting and supplicating, he would gaze at the faces of those present, as if he was seeking support from their blessing, and he would say to them, "This is Fulan. He wants to enter the covenant of the Shaykh, may Allah be pleased with him." Al-Ahad, Ahad al-Shaykh, then he would transmit to the litany to him, and thereafter he and those present would make great effort in supplicating on the person's behalf. And then he continues. He says, "I was only long-winded in describing this etiquette as an alert and a sincere counsel to the brethren, guiding them to act upon this etiquette and uphold it as much as possible. For perhaps one of those who are thirsty to transmit the litany, if he is tempted by the outward meaning of those statements found in Jawahir al-Ma'ani, that this noble litany is transmitted to whichever Muslim requests it, without regard to his situation, age, sex, or whether he is obedient or disobedient, such that he believes that the meaning of those words is that one should hasten to transmit the litany without consideration, deliberation, or upholding the etiquettes of the station. However, the matter is not like that." And so, so here, this is a little bit. So this is Sidi Al-Arabi bin Saih's understanding, but the understanding of our shuyukh is that you transmit the litany to them, and their understanding is from the statement of Sidna Shaykh radiallahu anhu, لقنوا القوم صلاة الفاتحة, transmit to people Salat al-Fatihi so that they may die upon faith. حتى حتى يموتوا على الإيمان. And so this is, for us, for our shuyukh, they take a different understanding. Okay. So then he continues a little bit further. He says, rather, consideration and deliberation are imperative, and one should not transmit the litany to the seeker until after he has presented its required conditions to him, and since from him complete acceptance. And how could he not take such precautions when he has also seen the words of our master, may Allah be pleased with him, in Jawahir al-Ma'ani? If someone takes this litany and leaves it completely or treats it lightly, he will open himself up for rebuke, and destruction will come upon him in this world and the hereafter. And other such words of his, may Allah be pleased with him, that emphasize this counsel, which is in reality from the words of our master, of the master of existence, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thus, acting upon this etiquette is one of the most emphasized and important matters in this path, due to the rebuke and destruction that leaving acting upon it entails. And we seek refuge in Allah exalted as He from that. May Allah exalted as He inspire us guidance and to guidance and correct action, and choose for us movements and moments of stillness in all of our states that will cause our end to be praiseworthy in this world and in the place of return. Indeed, He is the very generous and open-handed opener and benefactor. And so we're going to leave it there because he's going to start talking about another one of the etiquettes. But this etiquette is important, and the gist of it is that one should be careful when taking someone as a companion, and he should seek Allah's guidance, and beware of taking a companion hastily for something that pleases our nafs. And so we're going to go to Sidi Abu Sufyan, inshallah, and we'll take some questions if there are any.
Bismillah. Assalamualaikum, Imam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Imam, for the dars. Inshallah, we'll jump in on the first question, Imam. So the question goes, for us who have started to change our paths away from vices and seeking Allah, we still have companions who are still in vice, but they seek us for hope as they want to have conversations about the religion with us. Will meeting them affect our state?
If you keep it about, trying to uplift them, then the hope is that your state will affect them. However, if you should never meet them in any place that reminds you of the vices that you have left behind, or create some type of nostalgia for what you used to do with them. And so you have to be careful in this because it's the nafs, like I said, the nafs, it almost takes video of everything, and then when it's attracted to something, it uses that against you. And so you have to be very careful. There's nothing wrong if you're meeting them and they want your state to wear off on them, and you're meeting them. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it should be in a place where you both are not reminded of what you used to do, and it should be from a place of trying to help them. And it shouldn't be too frequently. If they are still involved in it, it just shouldn't be too frequently, because it can cause you to regress.
Inshallah. All right, thank you, Imam, for the explanation. Imam, in your dars, you mentioned that before entering into companionship, the shuyukh would advise us to make istikhara. Could you expound a little bit on how we can actually make this a practice in our life? What do you ask how do we go about it doing the istikhara? Yeah.
So istikhara is, there's a couple of principles of istikhara. The first is that you're doing istikhara, because Allah has not decided what you are going to do. You're doing istikhara as an ibadah and relinquishing as a way of relinquishing, what you think is correct and putting it in the hands of Allah. That's first. Second is that anytime you make istikhara and something a firm decision is in your heart, then that was the result of the istikhara. That's the answer of the istikhara. The third is that you make istikhara for anything. Any decision that you have to make, you should make istikhara. And so the Sheikh Hassan Sisi, the brother of Sheikh Mai Sisi, said that after a while, when you make it, your habit to do istikhara constantly for decisions, then your state becomes istikhara. So even if you don't do istikhara, then you will, if you don't do the formal prayer of istikhara, then before making a decision, then you will relinquish it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Automatically, you won't be making the decision without consulting Allah.
MashaAllah. So. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Imam. Imam, the next question is a little bit more specific. The person is asking to whom they should give, because you did mention in your dars, to whom should they give the litanies to? How do you know that a certain person is serious about it? And if not, how do they advise them and encourage them on the certain litanies?
I'm sorry, I think it broke up a little bit. Can you repeat the question?
How do we know to whom we should give the litanies to? And how do we know if they are serious about it? And if not, how do we advise them and encourage them till they become firm? So it's a very specific question. Yeah.
So as I said, this is should probably be referred to the muqaddam who gave you permission, and how he in particular transmits is how you should transmit. As I said, our shuyukh, meaning Sheikh Mahi Sisi, Sheikh Hassan Sisi, they transmit the litany, rather quickly. That doesn't mean that they don't, explain the conditions. They explain the conditions very clearly, and they make sure, that the person, confirms, yes, I am accepting these conditions before they transmit it. But in reality, if you want, you can do istikhara. You can do istikhara and then transmit them to them the litany. But in the end, the responsibility of taking the litany, and accepting the ahad, accepting the covenant of the Shaykh, is upon the person who is taking it. It's not, there are some people who come to you and they're just playing, and you can tell. If it's somebody that takes from a lot of sheikhs, then you should, probably keep his company and try to figure out, what he's, planning, or what he's, what his state is like. If you know that, this person, okay, last year he was Naqshbandi, this year he's Alawi, a few years ago he was Ba'alawi, and then yeah, you should probably try to hold off for a while and make sure that he's serious about entering the path, before you give it to him. Other people, if they come and they accept the conditions, and Bismillah, because in the end, they're accepting the conditions is their responsibility and not yours.
MashaAllah. Thank you for the clarification, Imam. Imam, the next question is based on what you mentioned about some people just go to the shuyukh and they only exchange a few words, but they benefit greatly. On this regard, as a murid, do you have any advice on how the murid could connect with the Shaykh who is like very far away? Like sending a message? How do they go about building that relationship with the Shaykh?
one way is to always try to greet the sheikh. You know, even if you have nothing to say, just try to greet the sheikh. You know, and just greeting the sheikh is has a lot of benefit. Because in greeting the sheikh, when you greet the sheikh, then he turns his attention towards you, and if the attention of the knowers of Allah, it brings you towards Allah. And so, greeting him, trying to greet him a lot is one of the ways. Also, trying to do khidmah to whatever work he has going on where you are. So the trying to help. Um, One of the really big things that people need to do, and I see this in everywhere I go, is be more diligent about attending wadhifa, at least once weekly. You know, I was speaking to Shaykh Maya about the distance, that we have when I was in Mexico City. There were murids there, but everybody lived 2-3 hours away from each other. It's not very easy to go. And I know that sounds funny because Singapore is very small. But in Mexico City, you can go 2-3 hours. My wife used to go to her lessons on Sunday, and it was 2 hours there and 2 hours back. And so, those are the distances that we had to travel. And so I would ask Sheikh Maya about, this, and he said, you must get together at least once a week. If you can't do wadifa every day, then you must get together at least once a week. And Sheikh Maya gave no excuse for that. And so, if you really want to connect to the shuyukh, then you have to get together as brethren. That's a very important part of this path. The wadifa, there's only excuse, for not attending wadifa or not having wadifa in congregation daily is the only excuse if there are no Tijanis in your town. If there are no Tijanis in your town, then there's an excuse for not. But if you're, if you have the ability to come together at least once a week, then you have to do it. And if people do that, and they do that, seeking, for Allah's sake and for the sake of coming together and increasing the connection to the Shaykh, they will see a lot of benefit. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you, Imam, for the clarification and on the importance of the weekly gatherings. Imam. The next one, Imam, I suppose this will be the last question. You did mention about companionship on the path and also with people of a certain tariqah or even a religious circle or any tariqah. But the person is asking, would we silently inherit bad practices of our companions by being with them constantly without us realizing it? The person is referring to companionship within the path, but I guess with people who have certain bad qualities. So I guess, it's a certain complication that they're facing.
So it's obviously if you're with people all the time, then you will pick up bad habits. It's the muqaddam, his responsibility is to try and pick up on these things and to try and stamp them out when they come up, and address them in a more general way. But so if somebody if you go somewhere where everybody's drinking, eventually you're going to drink. It may take a long time, but eventually you're going to drink. If you go, if the people, they have the habit of doing riba and namima, and you keep their company, you will, dabble in riba and namima, even if you don't like it. These things just they they're unavoidable, and so they like I explained. You have the rights of the Muslim, and then you have the rights of your family, and then you have the rights of your brethren in the tariqah. But there are brethren in the tariqah who are general brethren, and then there are brethren in the tariqah who are like your companions. And so you should seek in the among the brethren in tariqah, you should seek that your companions have the same goals and the same similar states to you, so that so that you uplift each other and you don't bring each other down. You know, so that yeah, if you see that somebody has bad habits and you're continually in his company, then yeah, you will pick it up. That's that's just how that's human nature. That's how it works, and we seek refuge in Allah from that. If you see that your brother in the tariqah has a bad habit, though, it is your duty to hide that from people. Whoever doesn't know that, is your duty to hide that from people, to make dua to Allah to remove it from him. And if you have to mention it, we're going to see this inshallah in a few pages. But if you have to mention it, then you have to mention it in a general way and try not to hurt his feelings and be more gentle. And this goes for the general people in the tariqah, and then your companions. You have to be even more subtle. You have to be even more subtle. So it's inshallah, with these questions will actually be answered more and more as we go through the chapter, inshallah.
Allah. Inshallah. Thank you so much, Imam, for the explanation on how our companions, in reality, cross-pollinate through meaning and through being with each other. And I think it's a very important topic. I'm sure a lot of people are benefiting from this. Inshallah, we look forward to next week's class. Before we end, could we have a closing dua from you, Imam?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Allah, we ask you for good companionship. We ask you for the blessing in that companionship. And we ask you for that you make that companionship a means to you in this world and the next. And we ask you that you keep us away from bad companionship. We ask you that, if we have, bad companionship, then you either convert it to good companionship, or that you take it away from us and grant us good companionship as a replacement. And we ask you that by bijahi Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, bijahi Sayyidina Shaykh Al-Tijani radiyallahu anhu, wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin, amin, rabbal amin. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Imam, for your sharing and your wisdom. May Allah bless you and your family, grant you good health. Inshallah, we'll continue next week, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah.
With that, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Imam. Thank you, Imam. Alhamdulillah, we've come to the end of the Knowing the Path to Allah class book written by Shaykh Ibn Arabi Saih Al-Tijani, the Bughyatul Mustafid, taught by Imam Talut Dawood. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, if you're keen to continue being with us for this class, same time again next week. We are still looking for people who are interested for the hospital project. We'd like to contribute. Go to www.launchgood.com/Senegal Hospital. We are building a hospital in Taibanias, West Africa, for the community of about 20 to 30,000 people, mothers who need urgent medical aid when they face complications in pregnancy. They need that medical aid, and it will also benefit those who need hospitalization, as the nearest medical aid is about 2 hours drive away. So inshallah, this will be of immense benefit to the community staying in Taibanias. And you can check out the link. I believe we're at about 75% completion for phase 1. And it is Amal Jariyah, and our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did mention one of the Amal that continues after we pass away is Amal Jariyah. And we hope that inshallah you'll join us for this for these efforts, inshallah. May Allah accept and purify all of us. With that, forgive us for any shortcomings. Please pray for our volunteers and our directors, Sidi Khalid, Sayyida Ainun. And with that, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.